Hello.
Hello.
I hope that you guys can hear me. Hello. So, this is Shristi Joshi Thakur, and today we are going to know more about Django. And if you are new to Django, so we are introducing it to you. So, I'm a beta MLSA, and I'm going to be your instructor today. So, let's start with the prerequisites. So, what are the prerequisites of working with Django, using it as a framework? So the software would be VS Code that we usually use for coding. And next would be Git. Git is not GitHub, actually. It's different from GitHub. It's an app uh, similar to GitHub, connected to it, but actually not GitHub. Somewhat like VS Code. Next is which skills do you require? So you need a basic understanding of HTML as and CSS, and you also need intermediate understanding of Python for the concepts like package management, virtual environments, and inheritance. So basically, HTML and CSS are essential for creating the front end or the UI of the web application. And you need Python because Django like heavily relies on Python. So you need a solid understanding of the concepts like this. Number one that is mentioned, package management. So the tools like PIP to install and manage Python packages and virtual environments. So like we are isolating the dependencies for different projects using tools like Venv and also for inheritance as inheritance is like a core concept in object oriented programming as we all know, so where one class derives properties and behaviors from another class, so the subclass derives the properties of the superclass. So this was all about prerequisites. Next is our learning objectives. So by the end of the session you would understand the Django concepts. So we would be learning about Django's architecture and core features. Next is you would be knowing about the difference between Django and Flask. So these are both popular Python frameworks. And next is we would be knowing about the application use cases. So we would be identifying which type of applications Django is best suited for. And then we would be building with Django. So we would be learning how to create a simple Django program. And the agenda for today's session would be introduction. So we would be giving a brief overview of Django and its use cases. Next is what is Django? So we would be discussing about the definition, history, and core capabilities. And third one being the basic concepts in Django. So we'll be knowing about projects versus apps and views and URL mapping. And next is paths and views. So we would be understanding how Django handles user requests and responses. And next is knowledge check. So we would be reviewing key concepts through questionnaire. And at last, I would be giving a brief summary. That is the recap of the major points. So this was the agenda. So what is basically Django? So according to the definition, like how is Django pronounced? The D is silent, so we call it Django. So Django is a free and open source Python web framework, and like it was released in 2005, and it's widely used for creating data-driven applications, web applications. And basically, the features of Django would be like built. It's built for data-driven application. So it is designed to interact seamlessly with backend databases while presenting a user-friendly front end. Next is it gives a rapid development. So Django automated repetitive tasks and it's allowing the developers to focus on application logic and also for scalability. So Django can scale to support complex applications with heavy traffic. And third one would be like some of the common applications are built with Django as well, like few of the machine learning platforms for like for ML models via web interfaces and for the e-commerce platforms. So for building online stores with features like cart management and payment gateways and also for the data analysis dashboards. So to present insights from large data sets and also for content management systems. So for creating and managing digital content, we use Django. So these were the uses and the introduction to Django. Next, I would like to discuss about, so I have already discussed about the applications. So I would move on to Django versus Flask. So like Django and Flask are two popular Python frameworks with several different characteristics. So I would like to compare both of them. Like Django is a full stack framework and Flask is a lightweight framework. So what's the purpose of Django? So Django is best for large and data-driven applications, and Flask is ideal for APIs or minimalistic applications. And next would be the learning curve. So learning curve is steeper for Django due to its rich features, and for Flask it's easier to learn for beginners. And next one is the security. So Django has a built-in security features like CSRF or XSS protection. And for Flask, it requires additional libraries for security. And some of the templating engines would be like Django has a custom templating engine, and Flask has a Jinja templating engine. And yeah, so this is all about the difference between both of them. Next is installing Django. So for installing Django, what we do is like it's a very straightforward process, and it involves various steps like installing the overview. Like we are ensuring that the Python and PIP, that is the Python's package manager, is already installed. And next we are creating a project folder. So we are organizing our files in a specific directory of our project. So we are, if we use bash instead of partial, so like the commands would be mkdir my Django project, and then we'll be giving another command cd my Django project, and then we would be setting up the virtual environment. So we would be activating an isolated Python environment to manage dependencies. So in the bash, we would be uh, putting in the command python dash m v environment, and then we would be activating the source. So we would be uh, writing the path of the folder in which our app is installed or stored. So next would be installing Django. So we would be installing Django using PIP. So like our bash, in our bash we would be writing PIP install Django. So after that it would be installed. So next is exploring core concepts in Django. So the first one being project versus app. So what happens in case of projects is like a Django project is the overall configuration and settings for your web application. So each project can host multiple apps. But in case of apps, what happens is apps are reusable components of functionality within a project. So for example, that web app A manages user and web app B handles products. So apps can be used across multiple projects. Next is uh, let us know more Django terminology. So next terminology I would like to introduce to you is views. So views is an important concept in Django. So what happens is views are Python functions, or these are like classes that handles incoming HTTP requests from the server itself, and it returns a response. So for example, we are displaying a product list with a user that visits a specific URL. So these are handled by views. So next is URL mapping. So what is URL mapping? It's basically routing. So URL in Django are mapped to specific views as we discussed. So routing is like a file that is called urls.py. So that would be routing. And so let us go to an exercise where you would be creating your first project. So like basically we would be using commands like we would be creating the project, and we would be using a Django built-in command line tool to start a project. And some of the like, okay, so some of the commands that you can use would be like Django admin start project my project. So after this command line in your bash, you would be uh, able to use you would be able to start your project. So next would be you would be exploring your project structure. So what happens is a typical Django project contains manage.py. So this is a utility for managing the project. And second one would be settings.py. So it is a configuration setting for the project. And the last one would be urls.py. So this is a URL routing. And then we would be running the project. So we would be starting the development server, and in the bash we would be putting in the command python manage.py run server. And then let's say we are creating a hello world app. So you would be adding a simple app to display, we would be creating a simple app to display hello world. So what happens is, like in the bash, we would be putting in the command python manage.py start app hello. Next is create paths and views. Okay. So for creating paths and views, so to serve the custom content, like what happens is that create the view. So what happens is, uh, like we are having a Python function in views.py, and it would be handling a request. So the command would be like from django.http import http response, and then we would be like having a function def, or I think I can show you. So let's suppose uh, we are creating a view. So we would be writing a Python function in views.py. So there would be a specific file that is views.py. So inside this function, like the commands, I would say would be like from Django dot http uh, import uh, http response, then def and hello world world. And inside this we are receiving a parameter request, and this is the request we are getting from the so, and then we would be returning the http response, and in the response we are giving back hello world. Yeah, so what is happening is, like we are importing this response http response from the Django http server, and then this is our, so basically this is our function. So this is our function definition hello world, and we are getting a request inside it. And what does this function do? So basically, it's just returning the HTTP response hello world. So what is our output? The output window would be hello world. It's showing us hello world. So this is the concept. This is the concept of views.py. So the file views.py would be doing this. This operation is carried out inside this, and the output is this. And one more that I discussed earlier was like, suppose we are creating our first project, and it's like inside the bash. So we would be writing like for starting. For starting the project, the command is Django admin start project. My project. So what's happening over here? So we are trying to start. We are trying to start the project, and for the inside the git bash, we are putting in the command. So Django admin start project, my project. So like our project's name is my project, and the command we're giving is start project. So this is how the server understands, our framework understands that we are starting a new project, and its name is my project. And it's going to the framework itself and telling it that we are starting a new project and our project's name is my project. So this is what this line states. And also, the one that I explained earlier was like, if you are trying to organize your files in a specific directory for your project. So let's suppose this is a project, my Django project. So inside the bash, what you are doing, like we are writing copy, edit, wait. So what are we doing is like, first our command would be mkdir. So this is how we are reaching out to the directory itself, and mkdir my Django project. And then we are writing the command cd my Django project. So this is how we are trying to organize our files in the directory my Django project. And how are we setting up the virtual environment? So inside the bash, we are writing like first we would be writing Python dash m v n e n v. So this is the environment, and oops, what happened? All right. So let's continue with this. And so this is like so inside the bash we are trying to activate an isolated Python environment to manage the dependencies. So this is like inside the source we are having like there's some path of environment, and then inside the bin it is located, and like we are trying to activate it. So inside the Linux we would be doing this activate, and let's suppose this is the path, and next is dot dash environment slash scripts. So let's suppose we are writing the same commands in our Windows system. So the command would be dot environment slash s slash scripts, and then slash activate. So this is how we are activating an isolated Python environment to manage our dependencies. And so for creating a project, we are basically starting the project like as I showed it earlier. This one we are doing this Django admin start project my project, and next is uh, for creating a route, create a route. So how would be creating a route? So like we are defining the URL pattern in urls.py. Pattern in URL url dot py. So uh, for defining the URL pattern in this file, what we are doing is basically we would be using a Python language, and would be putting in the commands like from Django dot urls import path. So this would be how we are defining a URL pattern. And basically, this after this we would be doing from dot import, and we would be importing views. Next would be starting a function for defining the URL pattern. So our function would be something like URL patterns is equals to uh, square braces open, and inside the function itself we would be writing path hello slash then comma view dot hello world, and name is equals to hello. um Here there would be no semicolon, instead we are using just comma, and so this is how we are doing it, and square braces closed. So this is how we are creating a root, and we are defining a URL pattern in urls.py, and this is a function. So this is how it's done, and it's the implementation of views as well. As you can see that we are importing from views, and yeah, so this is how it's done. Also, I would like to let me show you. So basically, I would like to discuss more about Django. So basically, what's the features? So we are having like it's built for data-driven applications. So basically, it's designed to interact with like backend databases, and like this is a backend database, and we are trying to connect with the server. So what happens is we are having a web framework that is Django. So with the help of this framework, we are trying to enable a seamless connection with the front end to the back end. So the front end, that is the UI of the web application, is connected to the database backend with the help of Django. And what is it does is basically it automates tasks, and it allows the developers to focus on applications logic. So focus on applications logic. And it also helps like for scaling the applications with heavy traffic. So if we are dealing with heavy traffic, so like many users are using the UI, so many users are at the front end, we are like using the web app. So to handle this traffic, the developer uses Django when he is building in Python. So this framework helps to manage traffic and like it improves the scalability. And what would be the key features? Like it follows the MVT architecture. So what is MVT? MVT is model view template. So as I discussed about view with an example, so model view template architecture. So this model view template architectural pattern is a variation of model view controller pattern. So there is also model view controller pattern. So what is basically this model? So it defines the structure of your data and it's essentially representing your databases table. So model is the structure of data and representing the tables. And next is the view. So what view does is handles the logic of your applications. As I showed it earlier. And what is this template? Template basically is the presentation layer of our application. So what happens is this template, like it handles the HTML structure and the dynamic content. And so this was all about the architecture of Django. So first one was model, next is view, then template. So model is the gives the structure of data and it represents the tables. View handles the logic of the application and template is the presentation layers. So it handles the HTML structure and dynamic content. And also uh, Django has a built-in admin interface. So Django gives the admin a powerful interface. So like we can easily manage our website's database through the admin interface itself. Next is ORM. Like what is basically this ORM of Django? So ORM stands for Object Relation Mapping. Object Relational Mapping. So Django's ORM is like it simplifies a database interaction by allowing us to work with database objects using Python code. So there is this database object and we are working with Python code. So the Django's ORM simplifies this database and it allows us to work with this Python code. And the next feature is security. So Django prioritizes the security and concern, and it comes with a built-in protection against the common web vulnerabilities. Like there is SQL injection, then there is cross-site scripting, that is XSS, and there is also a forgery of cross-site, that is cross-site CSRF, cross-site request forgery. And next is like so next feature would be scalability. So Django is designed to be scalable and it can handle high traffic websites, high traffic website handling. And next is it has a large and active community. So Django is a very large and active community, and we can find online help and resources. And some of the benefits that it includes would be basically rapid development. Next, clean and maintainable code. And next is security and scalability. So this is all about this. And so this is it. So I think the mics are turned off. Anyways, you can just comment down. So so tell me this question. So what is the command line utility automatically created in every Django project? Write it in the conversation or comment section or chat. You can also answer it now. I've enabled the mics. Okay, nobody knows the answer. So it's URL. So it's manage.py. Next question is what was referred to as a table of contents in the Django app? So does anybody knows the answer? So its answer is URL con and next I would like to summarize this. I guess somebody wrote anything. So if you guys have any question, you can shoot it now or I'll be summarizing and wrapping it up. So basically, so Django is a very powerful framework for rapidly deploying data driven applications and its key features would be comprehensive framework with built-in tools and strong and security features and like scalability for complex applications and also I have discussed its comparison with Flask. So Django is a full stack and while Flask is minimalistic and the first steps would be installation, creating a project and also I have taught you how to build a hello world program. So next steps would be you should learn how to build data driven websites with Django and you should be exploring deployment of Django applications with databases like PostgreSQL. So this is all about it. Thank you so much guys for joining. If you guys have any questions, please go about it. So guys, I would be waiting till 11:30. If you guys have got any questions, you can go about it. After that, I would be wrapping up. And also, thank you so much for joining today. And I hope to plan more such events in future. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for attending.